Macca's Guides.
Hey everyone, Macca here. Long time no see, but I'm excited for a new year of content. Starting off with this video, the easiest games in Xbox Game Pass for Gamerscore, updated for February 2024. And I'll make sure to make a new video should Xbox add Activision titles into Game Pass down the line. Now, the purpose of this video is to recommend you games in Game Pass that can help you raise your gamer score, reach new milestones, compete with friends on the leaderboard, earn Microsoft rewards, or maybe you just want to play something fun but on the shorter end that you can enjoy in one night or one weekend. I'll be tackling this video in a couple of groups, starting off with the easiest 10 games in Game Pass. We'll be talking about all the games that are under 8 hours, and I'll even tell you some games that you can stack on the PC version if you're feeling a little adventurous. I think most people try to open up their guide and go to Game Pass here at the bottom, which is not a bad option, but personally, I prefer going to My Games and Apps, and then going to Full Library, and then navigating over to Xbox Game Pass. Here I can actually group by letter, the tiles are a little bit smaller so I can see more games at once, and I can jump around the list a lot more easily. So the first part of this video is going to be the 10 easiest games in Game Pass, ranked from easiest to 10th easiest. And maybe no surprise to many, the easiest game in Game Pass, in my opinion currently, is My Friend Peppa Pig, which is a game made and designed for children to play, and can easily be beaten in about 1 hour. There are a couple of achievements here and there you might want to pay attention to, and there are a couple of instances where there's RNG, so that your instance of My Peppa Pig is slightly different from someone else's. But overall, it doesn't get much easier than this. I think a lot of people just kind of let their kids play this game, and they end up with 1,000 gamer score. Now, the second recommendation here is a game that kind of flew under the radar, but I think is kind of cool and very unique, and it's in the V's, but that is for Venba. This is a game that came out only a couple of months ago, and it is kind of a little bit of a cooking minigame, story-intensive game where you're mostly kind of viewing someone's life through their parents and their parents cooking for them as they were growing up. You're learning recipes of their culture, and assuming you can get through the game and do all of the recipes correctly, you'll easily be able to grab 1,000 gamer score in about an hour, but you may have to replay some chapters if you do make a mistake and don't want to follow a guide. Another 1 hour, pretty easy completion I can recommend, although it does involve using a guide, is in the F category, and that is the Frog Detective Complete Trilogy. Playing this game normally may take you closer to 3 hours, but there are some cheat codes that allow you to kind of skip certain scenes and only play the parts of the game that are going to result in achievements. I do have a video for this game on my channel, so if you want to complete Frog Detective, you'll do it in about an hour. Next up, we're going to go into the D's, and there are a lot of different Doom games now that we have the entire Bethesda category, but out of all of them, Doom 64 is going to really be the only one that's super easy, being possible to complete using some in-game cheat codes in under an hour, but this does involve a little bit of skill and kind of knowing what you're doing in order to get through the levels, defeat the bosses. Even with all the cheats, it's not like the easiest game you'll ever beat. The 5th easiest game in Game Pass, in my opinion, is in the M's, and that is Mikette. Mikette is a game that was ported over from the PlayStation, but we finally got it on Game Pass. I believe it's an Annapurna game. But if you do follow a guide, and you have to follow a guide, and you complete all of the speedruns, which do involve a little bit of skill, you can get this game done in about an hour. But I think most people are probably taking 2 hours to complete this, assuming they don't get stuck too much. But you can get a decent amount of the gamer score just by playing through the game and beating it. If you do get stuck on a speed run, you may want to just come back, take a break, and try again. Next up, we're going to go into the H's, and in the H's we have Hello Neighbor 2, which is a game that involves a lot of glitches. It can be done in about 40 to 45 minutes, so you would assume it would be higher up on my list, somewhere near the easiest games possible. But because it involves glitches, the controls are really bad, the game doesn't get updated a lot, so it can even crash on some people. You can lose items that will force you to have to restart the entire game. I think a lot of people get really frustrated with Hello Neighbor 2, even though it can be done exceptionally quickly. I think it's not a game that most people enjoy completing necessarily. But going from a game that people don't enjoy completing to a game people do enjoy completing, we have a game called Escape Academy, which you can play normally, enjoy with yourself, or in a co-op party. And this is an escape room type game. But like many puzzle games, following a guide will allow you to know all of the solutions and complete it way more quickly in about an hour and 15 minutes. However, with this one, you will need a second controller or a person online that you can boost a couple of multiplayer achievements with. They only take about 10 minutes, but there is a little bit of that added step of resistance, making the completion just a little bit tougher. For the 8th easiest completion, I'm going to go to you, and the only game here is Unpacking. Unpacking is a super chill, down-to-earth, quiet style of game where you're just going through boxes, unpacking them quite literally, and putting them on shelves, and you're basically progressing through time from like the 90s all the way to modern 2020s, and you're unpacking someone and kind of joining them on the journey of their life as they grow up. With that being said, there are some accessibility options that allow you to make the game a lot easier, and using those and using a guide to make sure you don't miss certain missable achievements, you can do this game in right about an hour and a half. We're then going to move on to G, and we're going to go for Gang Beasts. Gang Beasts will involve using 2 controllers, so you will need that, or you'll have to have a friend join you in multiplayer. Up to you. But you can get it done in an hour or 2. For some people, it's even less if you're very skilled at the game or you already have some experience in this game genre. But with that being said, there's a few achievements that a lot of people find difficult or a little bit tricky. And because of that reason, some people do get stuck on this game a little bit longer than others. Now, to wrap up the top 10, I'm going to actually recommend 2 more games, but they both come with a little bit of an asterisk. So the first one is going to be Ark Survival. The asterisk here is that if you do want this to be an easier completion, right around an hour to an hour and a half, you will probably need a keyboard, and you'll probably need to not be a completionist. The reason I say that is because this game is quite glitchy, and a lot of people end up going for the 1000 or the 1500 gamer score, and sometimes achievements just don't pop. And there's kind of not a lot you can do to force them to pop. So although Ark is easy and is quick, it does come with a little bit of risk in terms of the fact that you may not get everything to unlock properly when you play it. But if you want some easy gamer score, it doesn't get much easier than Ark, but there's a lot of typing involved, so you might want a keyboard or something like that. And then last but not least, another asterisk is Grounded. And Grounded can be completed in a matter of minutes, actually. But the big asterisk with Grounded is that you will require someone from the internet or trueachievements.com's forums or a friend. It requires someone with a save to make a copy of that save and basically send it to you. And then if you hop on their save, you can very quickly and very easily unlock over 2000 gamer score. But the asterisk is you got to find someone that likes you enough to want to send you that save. So Grounded, very easy if you have access to the save. So those are kind of going to be the top 10 easiest games. And then the next category, all of the rest of the games that I'm about to talk about are between 2 and 4 hours. Some of them very, very, very easy. Some of them a little bit harder. But let's go through them one by one. I'll kind of do them a little bit more quickly than my top 10. But it's going to take us a little bit of a while to get through here. There's definitely going to be games I recommend that you may not even know are easy or you may not even know are in Game Pass. The first one being Besiege Console Edition, which you can actually do with a guide online on trueachievements.com. They have a walkthrough I would recommend. You can do this game in 3 to 4 hours, and it's actually, although it has really bad controls, it's not going to like completely break the bank on like how hard it is or how much it tests your skill. This is more going to test your patience. And we're going to be doing these alphabetically. Again, everything's going to be between 2 and 4 hours for the next little bit of the video. Moving on to the C's, we have Cocoon, which is actually one of the best games in Game Pass, hands down, period, end of discussion. It's an incredible puzzle game, and I highly recommend you enjoy it. With that being said, as a puzzle game, you can follow a guide. I have one available on my channel, and you can beat this game in 2.5 hours and grab all of the achievements. Or if you would rather enjoy the game on your own, solve the puzzles, if you get stuck, you might look up a guide. It could take you closer to 5 hours, and then there might be some mop-up for some of the collectibles. So you may be looking at closer to 6 hours. So for Cocoon, it really depends how you want to play it. And another game that does that is Conan Exiles. And Conan Exiles does have console commands that do still mostly work, and they can get you a lot of Gamerscore. However, there is a lot of DLC, and that DLC you have to buy if you do want to be able to grab the full Gamerscore available. So if you're looking for a very easy, like 900 Gamerscore, you can try Conan Exiles. You'll need an online friend to do some co-op with you for the 1,000. And then if you want to spend the extra money on the DLC, you might be able to grab even more. But you can technically do it in like an hour or two if you are, kind of lucky and good at that. Next to Conan Exiles, we actually have Contrast. A lot of good choices in the C category here. Contrast can theoretically be done in like an hour or two if you follow very specific like glitches. But I would probably just recommend you enjoy this game normally, and you can easily get it done in 3 to 4 hours. It's by the dev who made We Happy Few. It's not the greatest game ever. I played it a very long time ago. But you can get Contrast done in about that 4-hour mark. So for some people, that's going to be like one night or a weekend. Moving down to the Ds, a couple options here are Day of the Tentacle Remastered. This is a point-and-click game from, I believe, the 1980s. And you can get it done in 3 to 4 hours, but you're probably going to want to follow either a text guide or a video guide. We also in the Ds have Dordogne, which can be done in 2 to 3 hours following a guide. There are a lot of missable collectibles. This was actually a game I wouldn't have recommended in the past, but in updates, they added the ability to chapter select. And with the ability to chapter select, they added an ability to see your collectible progress. So because of all those updates, it went down from like a 5 to 6 hour game to a pretty comfortable 3 to 4 hour game. So Dordogne, it's a very cool, artistic story about a little girl who goes and visits her grandma in France, and kind of she's reflecting on her life through these memories, and it's a pretty cute game. We're gonna skip E and go straight to F, and in F we have 2 games I can recommend. One of them being Firewatch, which is a little bit of that classic walking simulator that used to be a very popular genre. And Firewatch is probably one of the best walking simulators of all time. Not the best, but one of the best. And you can get Firewatch done in like 2 to 3 hours, maybe a little over 3 hours for some people, if you do have to go back and mop up in certain areas. There are a couple of missable achievements that require you to like interact with certain items. Firewatch is a great game, so if you just want to sit down for like 3 hours and enjoy a game, Firewatch can be that game for you, and you can end up with most of the Gamerscore out of it without even thinking about it too much. In the Fs, we also have Full Throttle Remastered, another point-and-click game from, I believe, the 1980s. If you follow a rigorous guide, like the one I have on my channel, you can theoretically get it done in an hour and a half. But I think most people are taking it a little longer, and they're in that closer to like 2.5, 3 hour range. There's a little bit of RNG for one of the achievements, which means that some people can take 5 minutes to get that achievement, and some people might take 20 minutes to get that achievement. So because of that little factor of, that question mark, some people may not be interested in Full Throttle Remastered. But if we go to the next letter, which is G, we have Genesis Noir. Genesis Noir is a 2 to 3 hour game that involves mostly puzzle solving. It's a very abstract, very unique game, so I'd recommend it if you're a little burnt out on like the shooters and the racers and the open world games. Genesis Noir is really unlike anything else you've ever really played. 2 to 3 hours will get you the 1,000, and there's a free DLC update, which will get you another like 200 Gamerscore in another 20 minutes or so. So you can actually get a little more than 1,000 Gamerscore of Genesis Noir. From G, though, we can move on to I. I has the game Inside, which is a fantastic game. I hope you've played it by now, but if you haven't, you have to play this game. You can enjoy this game normally on your own, get through it in about 4 or 5 hours, but you will have to probably go back and mop up some of the collectibles, or you can follow a full game walkthrough in 2.5 hours and just get that 1,000 out of the way. It's very unique, has some very cool and fun to go for achievements, and even like a secret ending at the end of the game. So that might be a game you're interested in. Highly recommend if you haven't played it, just to play it. We do have one game in the J's that I can recommend, and that is Hixooonnn, which is a new game. I will be making a Hixooonnn 100% full game walkthrough, expected to be one of the next videos available on the channel in the coming weeks. I'm very delayed with making it, and I apologize, but I promise it's on the way. Hixooonnn is one of those games where if you follow a guide, sure, you can complete it in 3 hours or so, but you can also just enjoy the game, sit back, relax, play it on your own pace. 5 or 6 hours, you may be done. It does have like 100 collectibles, so you may have to go back and chapter select, but Hixooonnn, it's one of those games, again, you can get it done quick, you can take a little bit longer, depending on how you want to play it, that's going to dictate how long it takes you. We're going to skip a couple of letters and go straight for the P now, and that is for the game Paw Patrol Mighty Pups Save Adventure Bay. This is a game I've personally completed, and I think I did it in under 3 hours. It's not the best game ever, but it's actually not the worst game ever either. It is definitely made for kids, and because of that, it is quite easy. But there are a couple of like little things you might need to pick up. You might need to redo a couple of levels twice. It's not a great game, but if you're hungry for that gamer score, that's going to be a good choice for you. Next to that is actually Paw Patrol Grand Prix. Don't play this game for easy gamer score. It literally takes like 15 hours. In the P's, we also have Planet of Lana. This is a game where you can do it in 2 to 3 hours, but most people are going to take probably a little bit longer than that. And that's because it requires you to play through the entire game without dying. There are some ways to make that a lot easier. For example, if you die, you can dashboard load back into the game, and the game actually doesn't remember that you died. But as long as you are able to complete it in one playthrough without dying, theoretically, it only requires you to do one playthrough. But if you do die and then the game saves, then you're going to have to do the game twice, and it might take something like 7 hours. So this one might involve a little bit more skill or a little bit more of your attention to make sure you're playing it the right way. We do have a couple of Q games here. We got Quake and Quake 2. Quake 1 you can do in about 3 hours, and Quake 2 you can do in about 2 hours. For both of these games, though, I believe they're going to be faster, especially for Quake 2. They're going to be much faster to do on your PC. So if you do have access to PC Game Pass, you have a decent PC, you're going to want to save these for the PC, but they are definitely doable on the console in like that 2 to 3 hour range. Quake 2 is the easier of the two games, though. And then in the R's, we have Ravenlock, which is a really cute game. You can get it done in under 3 hours if you are decent at these kind of action games. It's definitely aimed at a more casual audience, so don't expect to need a lot of skill for it. But there are some collectibles you'll need to do, some side missions that you might not complete kind of on that first initial playthrough. So just make sure you're grabbing as many collectibles as you can, doing the side missions. And by the time you reach the end of the game, there might be a little bit of mop up. But you can definitely do this game like in 4 to 5 hours. If you want to kind of go as fast as you can definitely get it done in even under 3 hours. Moving on to S, we have Scorn. Scorn is a 3 to 6 hour game, depending on whether you use a walkthrough or you don't. It's a very linear game, so if you just sit down, play it, you will eventually beat it, and that might take you around 5 or 6 hours for that 1000 gamer score. If you do want to follow a video, you can get it done a lot faster than that, though. Another game that I would highly recommend, actually, is A Short Hike. A recent addition to Game Pass, even though the game's been out for about 2 years now, I want to say. But A Short Hike was actually one of the biggest kind of indie surprises I've played in the last long time. It's going to take you 3 to 4 hours at the very minimum, but you're going to enjoy those 3 to 4 hours. It's a really fun game, cute story, fun little side missions. The achievements are pretty fun to go for. I'd highly recommend A Short Hike. In the S's, we also have a lot of games here. There's also Somerville. Somerville is similar to the game Inside, made by actually some of the same people. It's kind of a side-scrolling, 2.5-dimensional puzzle game that's mostly a platformer, and you can get this game done in 2 hours if you're really careful. Most people are going to take, 3 to 4 hours. Lots of missable collectibles, lots of things to find on your way through the game as well. In the W's, we also have one of the Walking Dead games, Walking Dead Michonne, easily completable in like that 3.5 hour range. I think there's 3 episodes. Each episode's about an hour to an hour and a half, and you'll easily be able to grab the 1,000 there quite quickly. Now, the next category, we're going to speed it up even a little bit more quick now. We're going to go to games that are between the 4 to 6 hour range. Starting off in the C's, we have the game Costume Quest 2. Now, this game's going to be on Game Pass pretty much forever, so you don't have to worry about it leaving Game Pass, but it's a great game for Halloween, so you might want to save it for around Halloween time. It's going to be around 6+ hours at the very minimum for most people. Additionally, a game I don't know too much about, but I do know it is possible in 6+ hours, and that is Figment 1. So you might want to look into that if you are interested in some Gamerscore and you've completed a lot of the games we've already talked about. Then in the H's, we have Hellblade Sacrifice. You can get it done in 5 hours. Most people are going to take around 6 to 7 hours. There are collectibles you'll need to grab on the way through the game, so make sure you grab those. Great game, and Hellblade 2 is coming out very soon, so it might be a good time to hop on Hellblade if you haven't already. We're actually going to go back to the G's. We have Goat Simulator. The base 1,000 can be done in about 4 hours, but there is a ton of DLC, probably 10 hours of DLC, which costs a lot of money. Then we have Grim Fandango, which is going to be another point-and-click game from the 80s. It's going to be the longest one of the 3 we've talked about today, though, clocking in around 5 hours for most people, even with a very well-structured guide. We also have Gree, which is the correct pronunciation for this game, clocking in around 6 hours. You will probably need to grab some sort of collectible guide on the way through the game to make sure you don't miss anything. It's very unique art style, cool story, very peaceful style of game. So I think a lot of people will enjoy it. It's also a game where I believe you can play most of it and get most of the Gamerscore without really trying, but there are some collectibles there. We're then going to move on. Sorry, I'm running out of breath. We're going through so many games. We have The Gunk. I loved The Gunk. It took me like 4 or 5 hours, I want to say. I think most people are taking around that 5 to 6, maybe 7 hour range, depending on how much you explore and how long you want to take on every section of the game, especially if you get stuck, because you do need to kind of 100% it, but you don't need a guide. That's kind of one thing I enjoyed about The Gunk is you're able to just sit down and you can play. And as long as you're playing and as long as you're making some progress in the game, you know you're on your way to that 1,000 Gamerscore. Very unique game. I don't think it did very well. I don't know if a lot of people enjoyed it, but I recommend it. We're then going to move on to M, where we have one game, which I'm going to recommend, which is the Max, The Curse of the Brotherhood. This game is like basically an Xbox One launch title almost. And you can grab the 1,000 Gamerscore in about 8 hours. It probably hasn't lasted the test of time very well, considering its age, and it was kind of a indie style game, but you have that option if you're starving for that Gamerscore. In the ends, we also have Norco, which some people can beat in 4 hours, but I think a lot of people are taking closer to 6, 7, 8 hours to beat. It's a very dialogue-heavy game. It's rated extremely highly by those who play it, but I think it's in a genre that maybe not a lot of people play very often. In the P's, we have a lot of different games, but the one I'm going to recommend, Piku Niku. You can get this one done in 4 to 5 hours. After that, we can go to R, and we have a game called Rollerdrome, a new addition to Game Pass in that 6 hour range. In the S's, we also have Shadow Warrior 3, which you can definitely do in about 6 hours. You will need a collectible guide, though, for that. I highly recommend Shadow Warrior. We also have Soma, which you can do in about 6 to 8 hours. In the T's, we have Those Who Remain, 6 to 8 hours. Toem, 6 to 8 hours. And then a very new addition is Turnip Boy Robs a Bank. Most people are taking literally almost exactly 5.5 hours to beat this game. Also, we do have a couple of games that are closer to 10 hours, but they are very, very, very easy. So I'm going to quickly point them out, and they're all along the same vein. We got Tell Me Why, under 10 hours, but very straightforward. And then you might know where I'm going with the rest of these. We have The Walking Dead, A New Frontier, 6 to 7 hours. The Walking Dead, the first complete season, which is this one here. which is about 9 hours. The Walking Dead Season 2, which is about 8 hours. And The Walking Dead, the final season, which is about 8 hours. But they are like pretty much as easy as games can get. You sit back and you just interact with the screen every couple of minutes, and the games basically play themselves. They're not very skill intensive, so that's what makes them a good pick. If you'd rather invest time and not skill or gameplay, The Walking Dead is a great choice as well. A couple of quick honorable mentions of games that are really good, but do take longer than 10 hours. I'd highly recommend Death's Door, which is going to take you probably 12 to 15 hours. I'd highly recommend trying that game at least once. It's one of the biggest surprises I've ever played. Also, a lot of people really enjoyed Psychonauts 2, which is a pretty straightforward completion, and you can get it done in right around 20 to 25 hours. But because you can just kind of play it, enjoy it, there are some things you might miss here and there, but you can always go back to mop them up. I think it's a good choice for a lot of people just looking for a good quality game and they want to, play something. Quantum Break, another title where you can grab that 1,000 gamer score in 15 hours or so just by mostly enjoying the game. And then in the T's, we also have Tunic. I love Tunic. It's going to take you probably 10, 15 hours, but it is one of the best games you'll play. And it's one of those games where as long as you're playing it, enjoying it, making progress, you should eventually get closer and closer and closer to that 1,000 gamer score. And if it hooks you, it's a really fun game to complete. You also have Vampire Survivors. A lot of people are praising this game, myself included. There's a ton of free DLC. Well, actually, some of it's free, some of it's not free. So you can get more than 1,000 gamer score out of this game. The 1,000 is going to take you around 25 hours, depending on how you play it. And then last but not least, you have a lot of Wolfenstein games. Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, one of the hardest games you can ever complete, so don't do that one. Young Blood, one of the grindiest games you'll ever complete. But if you are looking at the Old Blood and the New Order, two of the older Wolfenstein revival games, these ones are from the mid-2010s, and I think they're both clocking in around 15 hours each. Now let's move on to the PC side. All right, so actually the easiest game in all of Game Pass is actually Cooking Simulator. The thing is, only the Windows version of this game, which is Windows specific, is easy. You can get over 1,000 gamer score in literally minutes, but it involves a keyboard and it has to be on the Windows version. So if you have a PC that can run this very basic game, you can grab some very easy gamer score, Cooking Simulator for Windows. Additionally, we have Age of Empires Definitive Edition. I'm going to save you all of the boring details of the history of this game, but there are a bunch of cheats that you can use in the game to make it really, really easy. And using those cheats, you should be able to grab all of the achievements very, very quickly. I believe there is an online achievement you may need a friend for, though. Next up, I'm going to talk a little bit about a game you may have heard of called Limbo. And Limbo is known as a stack. What that means is that you can grab the 1,000 gamer score for Limbo on the console, and you can then do it again a second time and grab a new 1,000 gamer score on the PC. So if you've played Limbo in the past and you want to play it again, playing it on the PC might be a good idea. Because if you beat the game in 4 hours, you can get a lot of gamer score. And if you can beat it without dying, you can get the 1,000 gamer score in Limbo for Windows. Another game that is a stack is Goat Simulator for Windows 10. You can grab all of the achievements you already grabbed in Goat Simulator. You can grab them again. Another stack is Those Who Remain, which is an 8-hour roughly game. There's a Windows stack on the Game Pass version for Windows. And then Walking Dead, the New Frontier. This game is also available specifically for Windows and has a separate Windows stackable achievement list. And then while we're here, the last game you can stack is Hellblade 1, has a separate Windows achievement list. So maybe you want to replay Hellblade Sacrifice. Redoing it on Windows will generate you some new gamer score you hadn't gotten before. Thank you for watching the video. I hope it was helpful. Special thanks to everyone on Patreon for supporting the show. And hopefully I see you soon. Peace.